Okay, good evening. I would like to call to order and welcome you to the Hamden-Wilbraham Regional School District School Committee meeting. It is 6:32 p.m. I see that Wilbraham Public Access Channel is recording with Aaron Dowding this evening. Is there anyone else here recording tonight? Okay, we will begin with roll call in alphabetical order. Cheryl Caruana? Here. Tim Collins?
Present.
Sean Kennedy?
Here.
Lisa Murray?
Here.
Rich Redeker? Mike Terabasi?
Here.
And Michelle Boudreau, here. If you would please stand, Lisa will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We are going to begin with old business. So we will begin with the discussion of the MIAA situation, and then we will open the floor for public comment at that point for this, and then the school committee will have our discussion afterwards. So Steve, welcome Steve Berndrett. Are you guys clear on that?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
I apologize for the delay, but I created a little timeline of events that have kind of been going on since we almost last met and a little bit prior to that.
Thank you.
And then if anyone else would like.
I'm gonna blow a gasket.
So I believe since we last. Is it on now? The last meeting we had was on the 10th. And since then, as you can see, kind of the trail of information we had talked about, I wasn't sure what direction this would go or take off to. Unfortunately, a lot of dead ends, some answered questions, some not so answered questions. And just kind of presenting to the committee of what's been going on and where we're at right now. Currently, all of our teams are eligible for the Western Mass Tournament, as that letter was stated at that school committee meeting. However, the resolution or compromise is still that if our team matches up against a TBA team, it counts as a 3-0 forfeit regardless if we win or lose. If, for example, volleyball opened up on Tuesday for quarterfinals, they faced Putnam, which was another non-TBA team. That game counted as a no contest. We won. We're actually playing tonight. And whether we win or lose tonight, that will go in as a 3-0 forfeit loss. If we win, we play in the finals, but it still goes on paper, as we discussed last meeting, as a 3-0 forfeit loss. So once again, to kind of reiterate the mistake of the scheduling error by myself, and unfortunately it's the harm of the student athlete, which they don't deserve. And I think we've kind of all acknowledged that. And I just wanted to give the timeline of events as best as I could remember, and emails and communication chain, just of everything that Mr. Hale's helped with, everything Dr. Provost has helped with, and everything I've been trying to do with the community and trying to make this the right action for our student athletes. And I know this is a lot to hand out last second, but if anyone has any questions, more than willing to help answer as best as possible.
If I may, so when we talked about this last time, there was something that we're thinking about not participating, and I didn't get a chance to read through this and stuff, and I will read through it. Is that an option? Is there an option for us not to participate?
So in the letter that was given, it said, will be provided the opportunity to play in the Western Mass Tournament, and some of our teams still not accepting the punishment, we're willing to still play in the Western Mass Tournament.
Right.
Other teams that we had talked to were rather have opted out, so we did send a letter to the PVIAC Executive Board requesting to opt out of the tournament, because by my error, technically that's not even on our schedule. They came back stating that back in 2021, that they put in a no opt-out clause for the Western Mass tournament, which kind of confuses me more if it's not an opt-out than it's on an automatic scheduler, so why would we have to schedule something that's automatic?
Yeah, I think the paradox of the situation is the MIAA solution is simply to enforce an established rule that they already have, which is called the overscheduling rule. So if teams were to schedule more games than is permitted per sport, they get a 3-0 forfeit loss for that overscheduling. So each sport is specific with the amount of games you're allowed to schedule to make sure that all sports have an equal ranking opportunity. So I met personally with the president of the MIA, the executive director, I guess he's called, on Wednesday, the whatever it is. 17th, and said, so if you're enacting that rule and we don't play the Western Mass games, then you're not going to assign us a 3-0 forfeit, is that correct? And he said, I am only assigning you a 3-0 forfeit for games that you play that are not on your schedule. So that's when Steve met with each of the teams to see what their intention was, considering all the impacts. 2 of the teams at that time preferred not to play, 2 did prefer to play. So I called the PVIAC, which is a board that I was the executive director of 2 years ago, and said, so how does this work? And they said, well, you have to play. And I said, well, why do we have to play? And they cited this 2021 decision that it was not opt-in or opt-out. And I said, but the MIA said if we don't play them, we don't get a penalty. So you're forcing us to take a penalty. And they said, I said, but it's not on my schedule. And they said, well, we're gonna schedule you the game. And I said, great, while you're scheduling the game, could you schedule me 2 TBA games? It doesn't matter. So we feel like we're getting doubly punished. Mistake was made, we own the mistake. However, we're getting punished by the MIA with the overscheduling rule. We're getting punished by the PVIAC, which is not allowing us to choose on the student athletes initiative where they would like to play or not play. So they're forcing us to take that MIA penalty.
And they're not giving you any reason why, correct?
Other than the tournament is not an opt-in, opt-out. Even if you don't have
You
it
mean the
scheduled.
opt-in, opt-out tournament is not an opt-in, opt-out tournament?
Correct. Everyone, if you qualify, you must play, even if you don't have it in your schedule.
Is there anywhere higher that we can go, maybe someone with a couple of brain cells that can connect here and help us through this? Because this is not making any sense to me. This is not like nuclear war here. This is high school sports, and this is important to our students and important to other students that they're playing against. I mean, people want to play good teams want to win against good teams. I mean, so why aren't, I mean, you're pretty hard on yourself, I appreciate that, but at the same time, there were 17 schools that had the same error. So maybe it's something that the MIAA or the PVIAC should work together and maybe have it so that it's automatically put in or something like that, whatever, right? But this is like impacting people's senior year. This is their last shot at for some of them, of playing the sport competitively again. So I don't understand, like, I like that idea. I was just perusing through here and I saw something about a $300 fine. Well, I'll pay the fine. I'll pay the $300 fine. So can we do that and then let our kids play?
We've taken it as far as we can. We both testified in front of the MIAA Executive Board at their meeting. We requested a motion to be made to allow us to add the TBA games. That was not accepted.
Was it 100% against, or was it half?
We don't know, you were admitted into the meeting for your 3 minutes, and then we spoke, and then you were kicked out. So you didn't even see what the result of your comments was.
Wow.
So there are 17 other schools in this situation this year. Is that typical of every year, or there was something special about this year?
This
I
was,
think you already mentioned this once, if you could refresh all our members. What was special about this year that 17 schools were trapped in this?
so this
no-win
is something
scenario?
different in terms of MIA policy, and like I said, I apologize for the lateness of the packet. It does break down just kind of miswording of what's supposed to be scheduled, when's supposed to be scheduled in terms of in-season tournament, end-of-season tournament. And in the past, sometimes teams would TBA the Western Mass games, sometimes they wouldn't. We were encouraged not to last year because it's just an absolute nightmare for assigners. So at the end of the year, you see 53 PBIC schools schedule 2 home TBA games, that's now 106 games. And now, of those 106, 53 of those are gonna get canceled or deleted, while assigners are trying to assign officials. So that's why we hadn't done it in the past. This year was whatever reasoning the MIA wanted to institute. And I firmly feel it was not communicated completely thoroughly, with 30% of our league not abiding by that.
That was my next question, 30%?
About like 27, but I rounded
30.
it up, yeah.
To the question on the table, if I could direct your attention to the email from David Prue, the Northampton Athletic Director. I think that it shows what the communication was, as well as differences in the communication from prior years to this year. I don't know if you can shed any light on that.
Yeah, so digging up through things, and a lot of the ADs on the outside looking in, we communicated a lot, we had a lot of Zoom meetings. Dave Prue has been instrumental in a lot of the research, and information starting in their communication trail from the spring, eliminated documentation from the fall. So in the spring, 2024 spring scheduling deadline, all games must be entered for any in-season tournaments and end-of-season tournaments. And the CMADA is Central Mass, that's kind of their area. PBIAC is Western Mass, because we're the only 2 regions that hold regional tournaments. Central Mass is now since disbanded to do not run a regional tournament. And then the new scheduling deadline that has been determined, placeholders must be entered for any in-season tournaments, even if the opponent has not been determined. And we've been told time and time again, this is an end-of-season tournament, not an in-season tournament, because it's the last 2 games of the season prior to the state tournament.
I think it's also important to point out, while this impacts Minnetonka, it also impacts teams that had entered their TBAs in this way. So, Steve is a TBA district, I'm a non-TBA district. We play, I get a 3-0 forfeit, which lowers my strength, my record, overall record. You played me earlier in the season and beat me. That win is now less impactful because of my drop in my ranking. So it also impacts your rating, and you did nothing.
Because a tie isn't as strong as a win.
So if I can share, this is sort of,
It's not even a
this
tie.
is.
Yeah. Forfeit, I mean,
This is one of the points at which how negatively impactful this solution was on everyone hit me, because one of the things you'll see in the chronology is I had organized a meeting of the 17 superintendents who were impacted to talk about, what can we do. And a few days later, I saw something come across a listserv by another superintendent with inviting people to talk about the MIA situation. And I had a meeting with this person that day, and I said, you didn't come to my meeting, why are you setting up your own meeting now? He said, well, you don't understand. you were on the bad list and it was bad for you, but I was on the good list and it's bad for me. And so now that's why they were organizing to say, if they're forced to play us, it's going to impact their schedules negatively. Because we'll have the forfeits sitting in our records.
I think the final thing that's upsetting is, as a former coach and player, football's different. So football, you don't have to add the TBA games, because the state will handle your additional games, whether you qualify for the tournament or you don't qualify for the tournament. But field hockey, girls soccer, boys soccer, and girls volleyball do have to have the TBA games. Gets even more confusing in the winter when you have wrestling and hockey. Both of those teams play a lot of tournaments, where some tournaments can be quad tournaments for wrestling, sometimes they can be tri-tournaments. Hockey plays a lot of holiday tournaments all across the state. Keeping track of all of that could be a part-time job, just in season, which sports you've got to do that too.
And to note too, with Mr. Hale talking about the football and the difference, so it's the second to last page before all the emails start, taken from the script of the MIA schedule committee. The messages states that all schedules for field hockey, football, fall golf, soccer, and fall volleyball must be entered into the arbiter by the end of the day on September 13th. So I think I did the math, there's like 246 football schools that did not TBA. There are 2 extra potential regular season games, and there's only 30 that did. And they're upholding that they are still allowed to play in those games, including our team. So football's in the writing of what's expected, but it's a different, I guess, opportunity for those athletes.
They don't see the very obvious Title IX, I mean, you referenced them here, but those couldn't be, I mean, that's the giant beacon for Title IX.
Brought up to the executive
Giant
director of
beacon.
the MIAA, commented on in our public session.
I wish them
No one
luck
seemed
with
to
that,
be
'cause,
concerned.
I mean, my kids aren't impacted, but I'd be right up there, yeah.
So at this point, we've exhausted all of our, I guess, the channels through these 2 organizations, MIAA and the PVIAC. So there is nothing more that we can do with them? Other than, other than maybe, getting the 17 districts together and doing a class action lawsuit against them or something? Is that what we're talking about here? Is that, I mean, is this something, can we get an injunction? Can we, I mean, is it?
I don't know if you,
Yeah.
if you looked at, if you had an opportunity to read the briefing I sent out tonight, I had met with a group of parents, a representative of parents in the district who wanted to talk about the possibility of an injunction. And so one of the concerns I brought at that time was that I see this a little bit different from an individual sport, where there could be something that happened or something that someone didn't do, or a ruling, an event that impacted a student, where you might seek an injunction for that individual student, and that's been done in the past plenty of times. What's a little bit different here is these are all team sports. And so my feeling was that essentially moving forward with an injunction would be instituting litigation on behalf of the district, because it really has to be kind of all or none. And so the people who get to be named in those litigation are the superintendent and the chair of the school committee. And so I said, well, maybe we should have a conversation about it. Parents did say that that was something that their legal counsel had brought up to them and talking about it, and they could sort of avoid that by constructing it as a number of individual requests for injunctions. But then there was the question of, well, what if you don't get 100%? You know, so the question that I posed was, if you have everyone except your goalkeeper get an injunction, does the goalkeeper get to play so that the others can really have their opportunity to play? Or do you need to have 100%? We don't know, that's kind of an unknown question. And so I think really the question for the school committee tonight is whether or not you would authorize the pursuit of injunctive relief on behalf of the district and the 4 sports teams that are referenced here. I don't think it's for the other 17 teams because as you'll note in this packet that Steve put out, that vote to accept this compromise was pretty overwhelming. I think most of those 17 districts are fine with the compromise and their teams. So this is really something that I think is impacting us and one other district that I'm aware of.
Is there any reason, John, the other districts would have a more positive perspective on the compromise that was offered?
I think the teams that are most impacted by this are teams that are currently high in the state ranking or currently on the bubble. So if you have a team that isn't in that situation, your goal is to play Western Mass, and the agreement allowed them to play Western Mass. We have some teams that might have a dramatic change in their state ranking due to the participation in this, and I think that's why it has a different sort of impact here than it does in those other districts.
I think it's also important to know that there's a financial impact as well. So let's use boys soccer, for example. They're currently ranked 5th.
Yep.
Which would mean that during the first 2 rounds, if they were to continue to win, those would be home matches. Okay? We take 2 3-0 forfeits if we continue to win in Western Mass. We could be somewhere around 14, 15, 16, which means we now are traveling. Okay? And we could be traveling to West Springfield, or we could be traveling to Martha's Vineyard, which have drastically different cost differentials. So there's a financial piece to the budget as well.
If I could please open the floor for public comment, for those of you that have signed up to make public comment, if you wouldn't mind just coming up here. If you could sit.
If I may, one quick thing. Steve, are there any whisperings from any of the people, thoughtful people on either of those 2 boards, committees, whatever they are there, that they're saying, hey, try this or do this, or any guidance from any people that feel our pain at all, or any whispers? Or are they all just in like a wall and this is what it is?
No, my impression from the MIAA is that if I enforce all the rules all the time in every situation,
Right.
then I never establish precedents or any kind of weakness to our policies and practices. So there's no gray at the MIAA. What's the rule? Here's the enforcement. Done.
They didn't do that this way.
So,
Like they did with
that's the
football.
way- So that's the way they proceed.
And in terms of kind of the timeline and everything too, continue to encourage to write appeals, continue to reach out to certain people, and just, once we got to that next level, just waiting 24 to 48 hours of just getting rejected once again by a different person writing the letter.
I'd love to hear what the public comment is.
Point out to him that we're gonna take a forfeit.
Good luck.
So if you could just say your
Potentially.
name and your affiliation with the district. Thank you.
My name is Terry Lee. I am a parent of a student athlete and I live in Wilbraham. I know I had sent much of my comments ahead of time via email to the school committee members, but I had a few more things to add, I guess. So first I just wanted to say as a parent, I am asking you to support the district filing an injunction. I think it is the closest thing to a fair outcome for all the students involved, both in our district and in other districts. The egregious sanctions that the MIAA has put against our student athletes, as we've discussed, are not logical. They're applying a rule punishment that is meant for overscheduling, which these games are not beyond the allowed amounts. They're just saying they weren't in there and are now classifying that as overscheduling, which is not even their definition. It's also used to punish athletes for mistakes such as behavioral mistakes or things that they did. In this case, these students have worked hard throughout the season and are only asking to be credited with the results of the contest as earned. The sanctions being placed against these students, where these students had no possibility of preventing the clerical error nor fixing the clerical error. So this was on no part because of something they did. In addition, some teams are going to be impacted at a high level, requiring home games, additional transportation costs to the district, having to play against higher seeded teams than those that they had earned. Obviously a much higher, more difficult path to success. Some teams may even be prevented from qualifying for the state tournament because of their participation in their earned right to participate in the Western Mass tournament, although they would have qualified on their own merits. The inequities continue to teams outside of the district, as Mr. Hale obviously mentioned. Rankings artificially dropped due to a forced forfeit being recorded. It impacts the teams that draw us. For example, again, boys soccer that is, I believe, around 4th at the moment. Should they drop, as he mentioned, down to 16th, the 17th place team thinks they're playing the 16th place seeded team, but they're really playing a team caliber of seed 4, which is also not fair to the 17th place team who earned the right to play the 16th place team. The sanctions do not even equitably apply to all teams. So for example, the volleyball team that played yesterday, Putnam, in losing, did not have to record a loss. So they actually got an advantage for not being a TBA team, whereas the team who won gets a disadvantage by not being able to record the win, which is even different than if they had drawn a TBA team where they would have had to record a 3-0 forfeit, impacting them even greater. So even within the teams that are being sanctioned, there's multiple levels of which that's actually playing out. So it is in no way equitable to all the teams that are having to deal with this. Well, I was part of those parents that were looking into filing an injunction. We do believe that coming from the district is the best way to support and actually protect all of our athletes. We felt strongly as parents, we did not want to have parents, for example, who were district employees have to sign off on a parent injunction. That also prevents us from protecting their children in that injunction. There is a chance that a judge could rule only in favor of those named in the injunction, which means those children would not get the benefits if their parents couldn't sign off on it or financially couldn't afford to join us and be named on the suit as well. Coming from the district, it hopefully will protect all of our student athletes equally and give us the best option for having that option. So with those inequities and even more that we could go on, as you can see in that packet, the sanctions are egregious, and I ask that we not stand by and let the student athletes pay this price. I urge you to put the interest of all our students first, as you always have demonstrated and tried to do. Demonstrate that we stand up for fair play and support filing the injunction at this time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to come up and speak, feel free.
I know. But I think, yeah, no, I know. Just to bring this up here, so everyone gets 2 minutes to speak.
Sean, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. That was 4 minutes. So I want everyone to be heard because I want to hear, right? We all want to hear. But let's try to, I know 2 minutes, it doesn't seem like a lot, or depending on what you're doing, right? But just if you could, just try to keep it to the 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'll be brief. So Mark Atkin, my son Kyle Atkin is a senior, plays for the high school boys. Obviously had a great season. The impact for us could be dramatic for a variety of reasons. We're ranked, I believe, top 4 in the state right now. Challenge with all of that is taking 2 3-0 losses or forfeits with the goal differential will definitely knock us to a much lower seed. So I don't want to regurgitate what Carrie Lee said, but the implications for that long-term for the student athletes, completely unfair in my opinion. Cost-wise, we could have to go on the road, which for the district is obviously a challenge, I know. But more importantly, as these kids deserve home field advantage throughout, we now go on the road. Also, when it comes to actually playing those games at home, the further you go in the tournament, visibility for college recruits, I think would be stolen from the kids, in my opinion, as they take this away. This is completely against the MIAA's mission. By the way, they didn't uphold their own rules for football, which I find ridiculous, that they're on one side saying, hey, this is what we're doing, and then on the other side, they completely flip-flop and allow football to play. The other piece I'll just say for the girls, it's even worse. They're 6-6-4. With 2 forfeit losses, they go to 6-8-4. What happens is if you're 500, you're allowed to get a play-in game. At 6-8-4, unless you qualify in that top 32, you are out of the tournament. So for our girls team, they could go from a 24 seed now with 2 3-goal differentials, and they're more than likely out of the tournament, which to me is not fair. That girls team has earned every single right on the field to be in there. I implore this group to file an injunction. I can't tell you what we as parents will do if it's not upheld here, but I can tell you that the injustices for the kids, in my opinion, from the MIA are ridiculous. The last piece I'll say on the MIA is this is a board that has no oversight. They're not run by the state of Massachusetts. They make their own rules as they go, and to me, that's not fair. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to make a public comment?
So I'm Jason Sumala. My son is a senior at Minichog, and I'm a resident of Wilbraham. And I don't want to rehash kind of all the facts there, but I think when you look at a situation and common sense has gone out the window, it's really time for the higher up in the authority to step in and take action to make sure that, you know, these kids get their fair shake of what they've earned. So that's what we're asking is really, we've gone through all the channels, the team, the people involved have gone through all of the regular channels. Now we're coming to you guys to step up and help us make sure these guys get a fair shake.
Thank you.
One thing.
Speaker time.
Diane Deal, I live in Wilbraham. I have a son who is a senior and on the boys soccer team. I support everything else that all the other parents have said. I think the only other thing I would like to add is that we do not hold any ill will towards Mr. Brundrett or Mr. Hale. This is a really difficult situation. They have bent over backwards to try and rectify the situation. They are operating in the best interest of the children. So I too echo that we would like to support the injunction for our students.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Michelle DeFonseca. I am a resident of Wilbraham, and my daughter is a senior at Minichog. She plays for varsity soccer for the past 3 years. I also wanted to let you know that I have reached out to the parent representatives from both volleyball and field hockey. And volleyball, I know a couple of those parents have sent emails. I hope that you were all able to read them prior in support of the injunction. And I've been in the meetings with, I want to thank Superintendent Provost, Mr. Hale, and Mr. Brundrett for meeting with us yesterday. I've also been in the conversations with the other parents and the attorney, and I am also asking that you guys support the injunction. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we talk after public comment?
That was the plan. It was to hear
Okay.
from Mr. Brundrett, Mr. Hale, then we were going to do public comment, and then the school committee was going to be having a discussion again.
Hi, Brian Bowler. I'm a Wilbraham resident. My son Evan is a senior at Minichog on the boys soccer team. I don't want to reiterate everything that's been said. I've been an assistant coach for the seniors this year for soccer since they were in U9 alongside Mark Atkin, and it's been a privilege to watch them grow And I think playing for Minichog has always been such a high standard for them and a lofty goal. And the Western Mass tournament and postseason tournaments are such an aspiration for them and for the boys who have worked so hard and the students on the other teams as well. It's a shame that they're having that robbed based on, again, unintentional errors, and I applaud the officials and everything they've done to try and rectify that. So again, we as parents, want to do what's best for our kids, and we're here because we'll do whatever we can to help them and give them an opportunity. So I would just again like to reiterate the request from fellow parents and ask you to support the injunction. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Is there anyone else who would like to make public comment this evening? Okay, I can open it back up to the school committee. Any questions or discussion?
Well, my question was, someone mentioned that they, been talking to a lawyer. How are the legal ends of this being attacked so that you can get everything that you deserve and you can get it in a way that will take it to court?
Sure, you want me to come back up?
So, I tried to get you up, but she wouldn't. I tried.
So, basically in our conversations with the attorney is, we have to have individual parents sign on and be part of this injunction. And we would, she was willing to go today to the courts to file the injunction in hopes that it could be heard today or tomorrow. But we were asked to wait till after the school committee meeting because depending on the judge and depending on the day or whatever, the judge could just file the injunction on behalf of those specific athletes. We would ask that it cover the team, but again, it's like, Superintendent Provost said, if everybody signs on for soccer except like the goalkeeper, or we only have like 3 or 4 parents that sign on to be part of this injunction, and the judge says, no, I'm only gonna uphold the injunction for these individuals, then we don't have a team, then this is all for naught. So that's why we feel it would be better that it comes from the school, if at all possible, from the district, because there's no guarantee depending on the judge.
I guess I was thinking too, in terms of legality, where's the fairness? I mean, everything that everyone has said has been fairness just ripped apart for people's own, I don't know, pursuit of their little piece of the pie. You get little tiny groups that want to run something, and I'm not talking about the school committee.
I mean, it's pretty well known that the MIAA does not like the fact that Western Mass has its own tournament. And so I think this is a way for them to stick it to us.
Okay, that makes sense.
Does it have to be, anything that we decide to do would be against the MIAA and the PBIAC? They would have to be against both of them?
We were going for an injunction against MIAA strictly because, number one, this was not a rule that is written, but the PBIAC, it is in their bylaws that we have to participate in their tournaments. So the PBIAC is not doing anything against their own bylaws, but the MIAA doesn't have, this is not a written
The
rule.
MIAA is causing the forfeit. The PBIAC says you have to play the
Correct.
games. But
Correct.
they're not gonna make it a forfeit necessarily, except the.
It would just be against
That
our
was the
state
piece I was
ranking.
missing.
Yeah, it's just against our state ranking. So we could, we win in Western Mass in our 2 games that we win, and we can go on to the finals and win
Right.
that, and we win Western Mass. So it doesn't count as a forfeit through the PBIAC, it just counts against our state power rankings.
Okay. Thank you.
So, can I just ask a few clarifying questions? We usually don't question public commenters.
I'm so sorry, I'm the one that came up here.
But, and I should have asked this yesterday in our conversation. So the specific injunction would be to prevent the forfeits from being recorded? Is that
Correct, yeah, they would have to go back and allow us to play and be able to, look at, if we win, we get credit for the win, and if we lose, we get the loss against us. At
And,
least it's fair.
thank you, and I should have asked this yesterday, but my understanding is that you've identified your own legal expert who has a track
She-
record of filing
Yes, she
injunctions.
filed on behalf of the Long Meadow athlete last year. She actually is, she already drew up her document and everything. She's just waiting for us to give her the go-ahead and give her the names of the athletes who want the representation.
So the request is not for the school committee's attorney to file an injunction, but for the school committee to take some kind of vote that would allow the district's teams to be named collectively rather than as individuals, is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, but if it's easier to do it with the district's attorney, I mean, if it gets approved, we just want somebody to stand up for the kids.
So a vote such as the one that I mentioned would work, is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, right, I mean, that's the thing, like, the injunction needs to happen either, tomorrow, or
Yeah.
maybe Monday the latest, because it has to be aired in court, because I believe that the scores, at least for volleyball, need to be sent in and recorded by Tuesday, and once that's in and that affects their ranking, it may be too late to say that team, and have them reverse that stuff, so time is of the essence here.
Any other questions from the school committee?
I don't have any questions.
So we
Yeah.
can continue.
Lots of concerns.
No, Diane, thank you.
So, I mean, I see one of our major roles is to advocate for our kids.
Oh, yeah.
So this seems to be a no-brainer. So for the purpose of our discussion, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with an injunction for the school district's team against MIAA.
Second, third, fourth.
Do I have to add anything to that, John?
Well,
before they second?
I wanted to clarify that, because as I hear that, it sounds like you're telling me to call our attorney and ask for an injunction, as opposed to saying, we agree to be named and let their attorney that they've identified, file on behalf of the district.
But wouldn't, we would have to pay for that attorney?
We don't have a contract.
Correct. So I think that we would have to use our attorney, but I'm not a legal expert.
Would Sean be able to work with the attorney mentioned? Sean is our,
Sweeney.
Sweeney, sorry,
But we
is our
have more
attorney.
than one lawyer, and we authorize them to do different things for us, so I don't see why, I'm probably speaking out, but to authorize them to name the district, they're already ready, so I don't know.
Do you think that's okay?
Yeah, that's a problem. I mean,
They have a lawyer that has a track record, they're asking if they
It's
can
just-
call us for the
it would
district.
be-
We don't use Sean for everything, we use other lawyers for other
Right.
things,
I think it
so.
would be, agreeing to be named, much like an individual parent would have to agree to be named. If you're saying, we agree that our 4 teams as a district can be named in the injunction that they're seeking.
But I'm totally fine with the agreeing to be named, but who is the attorney then representing and who is paying for the attorney time?
I don't know who the attorney is.
Let's go back. Who is the?
She's at Baldwin Richardson.
Listen, if you, I'm just taking notes from what was just said by Carrie Lee, Mark, Jason, Diane, Brian. The results as earned, the students did nothing. We want them to, it to be recorded on their own merits. This will affect their college recruiting. The football rules were not enforced. The board has no oversight or authority, and it's just common sense, right? And measure.
briefly.
Sure.
Sorry, not on the list.
Did I forget something?
No, I just want to add to your excellent points. Maureen James, mom of student athlete. If you authorize today the district to become a participant in the filing of an injunction along with student athletes, you could authorize your attorney to contact the attorney for the parents. They could review the document. He could sign as co-counsel representing the district. The counsel that has drafted the document could be counsel to the parents. They could file it jointly and then you
Yeah.
would avoid
I
the
love
issue
our
of having to authorize the new attorney, and that might solve the problem. So if I could politely recommend that you vote to authorize the district to enter as a party to the injunction and agree to authorize your counsel to speak to counsel for the other parties in the injunction, that would be excellent. Thank you.
So I'll make an amendment to the motion that we, to authorize the HWRSD to become a party in the injunction and do that through Sean Sweeney in collaboration with Attorney Elizabeth Zuckerman on behalf of the parents.
I need a second.
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so we still have to handle the first
Vote as
motion.
amended.
So on the first motion that was made by Mike,
Let's vote on the amendment first.
oh, I thought we voted on the first one first. Okay. Vote on
Actually,
the
Unless it's a
Vote on
friendly
the
amendment.
amended motion.
What's that?
Unless it's a friendly amendment.
It's pretty friendly.
It was.
If you accept it, we don't have to vote.
Yeah.
I accept
He
the
seconded
amendment.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll do all in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0.
Can I ask a question? Is there anything the district can do about the Title IX?
Well, that was gonna be my-
I was actually gonna ask if I could offer something on that.
Okay.
And I'm gonna say, I feel compelled to speak because I grew up in Western Massachusetts. I grew up in PVIAC and MIA sports. I have two daughters one is graduated, but one competes in sports. And I'm absolutely mortified by the actions of the MIA over the past 5 years, give or take, as it relates to tournaments and things like that. So the state has multiple offices that deal with discrimination, and I think it would really help put pressure on the MIAA if every parent who's impacted by this, particularly if you are a parent of a female athlete, and files a Title IX complaint with OCR and or MCAD, they're both organizations that will represent you. I think numbers matter, and I think if MIAA sees that, it will have impact. I think also bear in mind, I think I've heard people say that, MIA has no accountability. MIA is funded from public funds. I mean, we pay membership fees, we pay dues, we pay tournament fees. That's your money as parents who pay admission fees to events, you pay athletic fees. Those are public funds. I think it's absolutely remiss of the state, it would be remiss of OCR, it would be remiss of MCAD not to take that seriously. So please, 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 don't just walk away here and tell the other people who are impacted. You can file online with both of those organizations. They're not the speediest at getting back, but so what? In 3 months, if MIAA gets a report from OCR or MCAD that 50 people, 100 people have filed complaints against them over the Title IX issue, they're gonna listen, right?
Should we write the names of those organizations up on the board so that?
Is there something to write with?
Actually, if you refer to the district's anti-discrimination policies, Section A of the policy handbook, all of that contact information is there. I think it's policy ACA, I believe.
Well, actually, that was
OCR is Office of Civil Rights, MCAD is Mass Commission Against Discrimination. So fire away.
that was gonna be my next, after this motion here, whether we wanted to do something, spearhead a class action lawsuit, Title against, Title IX infringement here with the football having different rules, then is that something that we want to take it a step further? I mean, to really hammer this home that,
I would like to see what happens, to be honest with you. If all of the residents and everybody are filing, I would like to see what the impact.
And to do a class action lawsuit, I think there has to be damages, which haven't happened yet. If we're unsuccessful with the injunction and the tournaments play out and the teams then are harmed,
Right,
then there's harm and damages
right.
and a basis for a class action lawsuit.
And then we would, but I'm saying, can we start the conversation to see if any other of the other 17 are interested in joining us on this? Or is that too early?
Well,
I would say file it when the sun comes up tomorrow morning
Right,
and then invite other school districts if they also want to sign on. Like maybe we reach out to the superintendents of the other districts with a letter saying, just so you know, we filed this injunction and
no, yeah.
the invitation is open to anyone who wants to.
you're talking about a Title IX complaint, correct?
Oh.
I'm
no.
talking about a Title IX complaint, he's talking about the injunction that we just voted affirmative on.
Okay, so, where do we stand on the Title IX? If I might, just to get to the end of that.
I did not make a motion, but I was saying, I think that's something that we should pursue. I didn't know if there's something that you want to send an email out to the other superintendents or talk, or however you want to do it, to see if there's interest there from other schools. And then we can say, okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 17 districts, you know, and then just have that ready in case this other stuff doesn't pan out.
So, in the beginning, when I originally organized that group of 17, or not everyone showed up, but invited 17 different districts, one of the things that we had wanted to think about was whether it made sense to do a class action injunction. So that's certainly something that's already in the water. I could write back to that same group and let them know this vote took place at the school committee, just so you know this is moving forward, if anyone else wants to change their stance at this time. I do think that the Title IX issue may be a little bit, actually less discretionary at this point, because given your comments and given your comments, you know, we have an obligation to ensure that gender discrimination doesn't occur within our district, and so now that it has been sort of discussed in this format, I feel like we may be compelled to file a Title IX complaint.
Exactly.
I move that we file
Second.
Title IX.
Excellent.
Are we allowed to vote on that? It's still the MIA thing.
No, it's still,
But I don't think they need a vote. If there's discrimination, you have to file a complaint.
Do you need us to
It's
pass
like
a
being a
motion to
mandated
do
reporter,
that?
I don't think it requires.
Can't hurt.
I don't think it
Okay.
requires-
Can't hurt.
If people want to go on the record for whether they're,
It's been motioned and seconded. It's before the committee.
So we can do a roll call vote, or we'll just do an all in favor. All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much, thank you for coming.
Still file individually?
Good luck. Sorry.
No.
Okay?
Maybe that would file an
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, thank you.
Oh, Michelle?
I'm Diane, she's Michelle.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, that your husband has been helping in sessions.
might you both?
One day.
No.
He's welcome back anytime. He kept telling people, no, it's only cash. They only take cash at the aqueduct. I was cracking up, nobody knew we talked about it.
Thank you again, guys.
I think we should stop some extra money, that's what our stabilization for, thank you.
It's free to file a complaint.
Moving on, so we will move on to the superintendent's report. John.
Thank you. To update you on the progress of our strategic plan, I wanted to let you know that we've submitted our Part A application for an innovation career pathway in healthcare and social assistance. I hope that we'll receive permission sometime next month to submit a Part B application, which will be due in the spring. Our associated planning grant also received final approval. You all received a forwarded email this afternoon with Secretary Tutwiler naming us as one of the districts that received that grant. So that's $15,000 that we'll use primarily to advertise and educate students and families about this new educational opportunity they'll hopefully be able to provide for their children. We also received notification of preliminary approval of a $100,000 Rethinking Discipline Initiative grant. We plan to use these funds to implement upstander training that is part of our equity improvement plan and other initiatives geared toward creating a school climate and culture that embodies an equitable, safe, positive, healthy, culturally sustaining, and inclusive whole school learning environment for all students, which supports students' academic and social emotional well-being and reduces suspensions and expulsions for all students, and disparate use of exclusionary practices as frequently seen for students with disabilities and students of color. Finally, I can report that our assistant superintendent search is well underway. We did draw a strong field of candidates. The search committee held its initial meeting this week and the paper screening is ongoing. We'll meet again next Wednesday to select semifinalists for in-person interviews. Our goal is to bring you finalists for public interviews to be held at the November school committee meeting. That's my report.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay. We will continue with new business. John?
Sure. In your packet, you see a memo from me recommending an increase in substitute rates of pay from $95 to $110 a day for paraprofessionals and teachers respectively, or half that for half-day positions. I also included within that memo some information, mainly from vendors of teacher sub-fulfillment products that talk about the nationwide shortage of subs we have right now. And so things that are done when we don't have enough subs are administrators covering classrooms, non-teaching staff such as paraprofessionals covering classrooms, or teachers covering classrooms during their prep periods. All three of those things are happening in our district. As you can see from the second part of that memo, the majority of districts say they're using one of those practices very frequently or always, and that includes us. Just the estimate right now is about a 48% fill rate, which means, that's nationwide, about a little less than half of all the sub vacancies are actually filled. This year we're tracking at about 46% sub fill rate, and compared to other nearby districts we're lower. So my recommendation is to raise the rates of pay to see if we can increase our fill rate.
Make a motion to raise the substitute rates of pay from $95 to $110 a day for paraprofessionals and teachers respectively.
Second.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Did I use the correct wording on that? 95 is for the paraprofessionals, 110 is for the teachers.
Okay, so we'll move on to the Assistant Superintendent for Finance, Operations, and Human Resources.
All right, so I only have one thing, and I think it's good news. You all should have received an email today with ready signed information to sign a batch of warrants. There are some warrants to sign tonight. These should be the last warrants that you physically sign. You should be able to electronically sign all of the warrants going forward. So you will probably have 2 separate warrants to sign when you get them this time. One will be an accounts payable and one will be payroll. So be on the lookout for that in your email. If you haven't seen it, if you've seen it, I know Lisa and Cheryl said they'd seen it, and Michelle now. So you should have it in your email. We are working on some formatting, so it may not be perfectly formatted, but just sign it and we'll fix formatting later. That's part of the process.
It's coming from Sherry Palm, the
Cheryl Palm.
Cheryl.
Yep.
Cheryl.
Yep.
Okay.
If you don't have it, let us know by email tomorrow or something.
Any questions for Erin? Okay, thank you. So next we'll move on to the Director of Student Services, Josh.
Working one? Working one?
Thank you. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Special Education Parent Advisory Council, which is a council that is formed in every district. Ours is looking to partner with the school committee in a more ongoing basis. And so they asked me to present to you sort of the question of how do you feel as though it would be best for you to better partner with us. We have monthly meetings on the second Tuesday of every month. I'd be happy to provide a schedule of those to the full committee. In some school districts, committees have authorized sort of one representative, that's sort of the liaison between the committee and the CPAC. In other districts, they have had multiple members attend meetings to listen and be able to report back, and have CPAC listed as sort of a regular agenda item. And so I thought it would be best to ask all of you how you think participation and partnership would sort of go, or how you'd like to proceed, and I'd be happy to share that information back with CPAC at our next meeting.
What time of day do they meet?
It's in the evening. It's usually from 6:30 to, no, I apologize, from 6 to 7:30.
Okay.
At the high school in the IRC.
Could I just share one other model I've seen?
Sure.
I've also seen, sometimes PACs will designate one of their meetings to
Right.
meet with all the school committee and talk about issues of interest. So that could be a third,
Sure.
it could be like a counter,
Yeah,
depending on what the committee wants to do.
Absolutely.
or even having a representative from that committee come and every meeting that we have, like we have here, we have for the different subcommittees and such like that, we could have it so that your representative can come and speak about the issues that they're facing at all of our meetings.
Sure.
And if we have any questions, we can go back and forth there. And then, of course, inviting us to a meeting here and there, that'd be great. That's important. Most of the conversations I have with people in the community, I don't want to say most, but I want to say disproportionately a lot, are about special ed issues. So this is a very important issue in our community.
Josh, what is the group's ultimate goal? Are they looking to hear from us in a wider range? Because their child is special ed, maybe they want to hear what regular ed is, or how it affects their child.
Sure.
Or are they just trying to get inroads into the decision-making, to the decision-making people, so we can hear their needs?
So I think it's a little bit of both. The mission of CPAC is to be an advisory group to the school committee, to be able to provide information directly to you around challenges that they might be facing, initiatives that they feel as though may be important, to support students with disabilities within the district, and to sort of weigh in or provide feedback around discussion topics or initiatives that may be on your agendas or in front of you.
Thank you.
Josh, you attend all of the CPAC meetings?
I
Because
do.
it is a parent, or like, is it parent run?
It's parent-run
It's a parent-run
and supported by
organization.
us.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So I attend all of the meetings as the district representative, and I often report back to either Dr. Provost, or if it's a larger issue, I have previously reported to the school committee in prior roles. I sort of shared that with CPAC, and they really felt as though it would be, in an ideal world, it would be great to have sort of a more visible and active role themselves, directly with the committee.
I think it's wonderful. I have 3 children now, men, who, all 3 were special ed, and my credentials include special ed K to 12.
Do we want to do if the purpose of that committee, right, is to inform the school committee of issues, should we maybe have a rotation that, you know, every meeting, there's a school committee member there and it can rotate so we can all get a chance? Because I've been to this meeting before and I found it very, very helpful and eye-opening. I mean, I could say I'll do it, you know, I'll be the rep, but I think it's more important, I mean, Cheryl, especially with your credentials, Lisa being an active teacher, I mean, Tim, you know, being part of the union, I think it would all be great if we all got a chance to be part of this. And then have them come here and speak as well,
How often do they meet?
Once a month.
once a month.
They meet once a month.
On a Tuesday, you said?
So, I mean, I don't necessarily object to your suggestion, but I'm wondering if it would be much better for their visibility and the visibility of their concerns for them to be on a schedule where they come and present at a school committee meeting, you know, whether it seems like it's best, you know, once every 3 months or once every 2 months, however long, you know, they feel like that, you know, they would have, you know, a 10 or 15-minute presentation, and, you know, they can even do, that inform the whole committee, and goes on the video and gets cited in the paper, and, you know, so that might serve their cause well.
Sure.
We could certainly do a hybrid. I don't know that, I'm sure they would be open. I think it would be helpful for all of us to kind of do even a hybrid version of, maybe we do rotate going to their meetings, but we also can invite them to school committee meetings,
Yeah.
whether it's quarterly or as needed if something's coming up. I think we can kind of play that by ear, but I think it's about, how members of the school committee decide that they want to be part of the rotation of attending meetings, because that is a commitment, and knowing when it is your turn. Obviously, if things come up, we all have, other obligations, but making sure that we commit to the dates that we sign up for, and then, we can report back, but also then invite them. I think that would be really nice.
And I should have shared this previously, but the topics of our meetings are always different. And so we've mapped out our meetings for the course of the year, and so some are much more focused on providing professional development to families around different topics. And so what we could also do is have sort of section of the meeting be sort of an opportunity for caregivers to share with whatever member is there. And then that way, you're welcome to participate in the professional development or sort of focus on that part. And the only thing that I would caution, and Dr. Provost may have a better sense of what would be a quorum, but one obviously would not be. But if multiple members decided to come to the same meeting, we would just have to be mindful of how many are there at that particular time.
And just to add, I think it is my personal opinion would be it's important for us to also go to their meetings, because I think as nice as it is that we do invite people to present, it's nice for us to get a glimpse into what they're doing. And rather than having it more formal, it's nice for us to see people and, their environment, their conversations, and it allows us to listen and participate. So, what are your thoughts, and how would you like to proceed?
So, one quick thing before we go on. Did you or your team, did you guys have a preferential thing that you wanted, or was it really they just?
My gut instinct
Yeah.
is that the preference would be to have school committee members participate in the meetings, only because they can sometimes be challenging for families, for our sort of officers to come to school committee meetings and present. And I think that a good starting point, at least, would be to have the committee sort of come to the group and then provide an opportunity for them to come and present if there's a particular topic. I think that that would feel more collaborative. And then our last meeting of the year, this year, is going to be an award ceremony where students nominate teachers, faculty, staff, or important members of the community who have made an impact on them. And so that would be a wonderful opportunity, and we'll share more sort of as we get closer to the spring. But that would be a wonderful opportunity for more members of the committee to join.
Just thinking a little bit more about the dynamics and possibly why that might be the preference. Sometimes people share things in those meetings that they don't necessarily want to have taped and broadcast to the world. So it's a more intimate setting.
All right, so why don't we go with what we were talking about before, make a motion to go for the hybrid model, where we have a revolving school committee. There will be a school committee representative at each of their meetings every month. And whoever decides to go, if they can't make it, they just make another call to someone on the school committee to take their place. And that we would extend, once a month, we would because they meet once a month. If they want to send a representative here, we'll make sure it's on the agenda, so that they can have someone come here if there's something that they want to bring to the entire committee's attention. And if we decide to have a joint meeting or something like that, that's something that we can talk about as time goes on. Let's see how this works.
Pretty long.
That's a long motion.
That's a long motion. Did you get all that? She got it. She's good. She's got it.
Stop writing a long
She's got it.
Yeah.
She ain't there yet.
I stopped writing a long time ago.
I think that, how about you limit your motion to, that we go forward with the hybrid
rotation,
model.
The hybrid model,
And
period.
and the nitty-gritty as to how we implement it, I don't think needs to be in a
There you
motion.
go.
So if you could share the, oh, I'm sorry. So let's continue with that. So that was the motion.
The hybrid
And
model.
I would second the.
Okay. And then further
the,
discussion or
Cliff Notes
questions?
version.
There you go.
So my question is if you could just share the meeting schedule?
Yes,
Like through
absolutely.
the end
When's
of
the next meeting?
school year, that would be great. So then that way we can,
Second
then it can go out and then we can kind of determine amongst ourselves, maybe in an email, and
Exactly,
decide
like
what works for
either
everybody.
a poll kind of
Exactly.
thing with the list of the meetings.
Right.
And so then people can look and see,
Right.
because,
Perfect.
The
And
next meeting is November 12th. Because of election day.
Here's, if this is okay with everyone, I'll take that meeting, right? And then we can go forth, we'll come back with the whole list.
We're just waiting to hear, we might have we might be meeting for planning on the 12th, just.
We might be planning on the 12th, so I'm not gonna be taking that meeting.
I am not on call on the 12th, so I could attend the meeting,
Great,
unless.
we'll do all of this electronically.
sure.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
But
That's something we are about to do.
Okay, so just in an effort to save time. So thank you for that. But all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, motion carries 6-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we will continue. No one's here for public comment. We already had that. Subcommittee updates. We'll begin with the curriculum subcommittee. Lisa?
We met with curriculum subcommittee today, but I would like to be able to present what we talked about next time, since we had back-to-back meetings.
Just when is your next meeting?
January? Did we say January? We don't have a next scheduled
We
yet.
don't yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I guess no questions for Lisa. Next planning committee, we are just waiting to finalize our date for our meeting, but it's perhaps pending on the 12th, so more information will be available soon. Then we have finance, operations, and technology. Sean?
We had an organizational meeting, lots of conversation. It's really, really good. We were talking about, how we can do better by our towns, how we can do better with communication. It was really a wonderful conversation, lots of conversation, being very open. I was very happy. I think we all were, right, by that. So with that initiative going into it, we'll be meeting again on the
Erin, we need to add you to the agenda.
Yeah, can we have Erin have
You
the-
are our final subcommittee.
She's
You're
already
the word.
working.
It was the 19th. Yeah, it was the 19th.
Right?
November 19th?
Yes.
November 19th.
At like 6:30, is that what we said?
I have November 7th in here.
I
Oh,
have
5:30.
November 19th at 5:30.
That's it. Michael's got the right one.
There you go, you get the right
Well,
one.
it's the one you put in my calendar, so,
Oh. And then, and then we're gonna meet with the whole committee, which includes representatives from the different towns, and then just going forward from there. We're really hoping that there'll be better communication and less issues coming up during the time of the,
And we're gonna talk about capital at that meeting, right?
yes.
That's the focus for the November meeting is capital, because we
Yep.
don't have the
Sure.
operating budget.
No, I mean,
Can't
Pam
have
will
it.
have all of the she has all, I've updated all the capital sheets, you'll have those.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, so next we'll move on to the LPVEC Collaborative Representative, Lisa.
Okay, so I have a lot to say today, because I was not pleased with the last meeting that I did not attend. And though I know that John gave you an update on the new routes to make congestion with cars better. The conversation quickly veered into my subcommittee, and things were put on my agenda when I wasn't present for the meeting. And I feel like I am respectful to the other subcommittees, and I don't go into the work that they have been doing, and I don't put things on your agenda when I am not part of that subcommittee. So I figured that I would start at the beginning of everything that's been going on at LPDEC, because I feel like I'm not being heard either. So I'll tell you when I am done speaking. So you know that I became a representative for LPDEC because I have an interest in basically, my father is a skilled tradesman, and I'm very pro technical education. So when I started on LPDEC, I took time to listen and learn. I learned that we offered 12 programs at the time: advanced manufacturing, automotive technology, building property maintenance, carpentry, cosmetology, culinary arts, early education and care, graphics and visual design, health assisting, information support services, and networking, landscape, technology, horticulture, and I'm drawing a blank on the last one there, but I'll get back to you on that one. So I learned that every student that applied was accepted into CTEC when I first started. I also learned that Minnetonka students began CTEC their sophomore year. From my work on the school committee, I learned that a lot of residents did not know that these programs were available to our students. With the help of Dr. Provost, I asked that it be a priority to better communicate these opportunities to student families and to also have CTEC begin freshman year, as I had also learned that we were the only district that started in 10th grade while everyone else started in 9th. With the hard work of Minnetonka administration, a program of studies was made for each of the 12 vocational, technical, and occupational programs that met state and graduation requirements. With the help of middle school administration, email, CTEC flyers, guest speakers, advertisements, and open houses for CTEC were communicated with middle school families in preparation for 9th grade. Students are now attending CTEC starting in 9th grade. Currently, LPDEC is working on expansion in space. This year, CTEC was expanded by starting a criminal justice program for 9th grade, and each year will expand to the succeeding grade level. Currently, there are 62 Minnetonka students attending CTEC. Of the students that applied for this year, 24 were accepted, 22 are in 9th grade, 7 withdrew after they applied, 3 are waitlisted. Once students have completed their exploratory of each CTEC program and decided which shop they would like, or if they decide they no longer wish to attend CTEC, waitlisted students will be called to see if they are still interested in attending. Information on Career Technical Education Center and their program of studies is readily available on their website. When we're talking about busing and the needs of each of the member districts, Southwick, Tolland, Granville has 18 big buses and 7.22 small buses. They are in need of 0 drivers. They are a 3-tier district. Agawam has 17.5 big buses and 11.2 small buses. They need 0 drivers and are a 4-tier school district. West Springfield has 23 big buses and 15.6 small buses. They're in need of 7 drivers. They are a 4-tier district. East Longmeadow has 15.5 big buses and 7.39 small buses. They're in need of 1 driver. They are a 3-tier school. Ludlow has 18 big buses and 6.76 small buses. They're in need of 5 drivers, and they are a 3-tier district. Longmeadow has 6.5 big buses and 6.5 small buses. They're in need of 1 driver. They are a 2-tier school district. Hampton-Wilbraham has 33 large buses and 10 small buses. They're in need of 12 drivers. We are a 2-tier district. Bus drivers that drive for districts that have 3 or 4 tiers have more average daily hours and make more money. We currently have enough drivers if we were a 3 or 4-tier district. 2 years ago, changing to a 3-tier district was proposed to save money, and simultaneously it would have addressed the busing needs. It was rejected. Costs of LPVEC for busing. LPVEC charges $382.36 for a big bus. The other busing companies, McCarthy, which does Palmer and Munson, charges $553 for their buses. 5 Star, that does Chicopee, charges $402.77. First Student, that does Granby, Belchertown, and Ware. They charge Granby $467.75, Belchertown $495.52, and Ware $446.56. All of these bus companies are more expensive than LPVEC. None of these bus companies are looking to service our area. None of these bus companies have 43 extra buses to bus our students. All of these bus companies also have a bus driver shortage. Where would these other companies get bus drivers to drive the buses? They currently do not have the buses they currently do not have to service our district, since they advertise for drivers in the same region we advertise in, so we would be drawing from the same pool of drivers. Why would we sue ourselves? Are you prepared to be countersued by each of the other member districts in order to recoup their money loss that they would otherwise be using for students' education? Why would we liquidate our busing when we have the cheapest busing in the area, are currently finalizing the infrastructure for electrical buses, would cause a significant number of people to lose their jobs, would cause a busing crisis for 6 other member districts besides our town, and there's a bus driver shortage in the entire Commonwealth. It was also suggested that we recruit employees that speak other languages. This has already been discussed. The CDL class is taught in English. The CDL test to be licensed to drive a bus is in English. The state is working on making a Spanish version of the test. Even so, it does not make sense to have a Spanish test if the class is not taught in Spanish. When ready, LPVEC has recruited a bilingual Spanish CDL instructor. Hamden-Wilbraham did have a Spanish-speaking driver, and LPVEC received parent complaints about the driver speaking another language. Last year, LPVEC spent $62,000 in advertising, which included radio, TV, newspaper, and other various mediums of communication. This netted at the most 10 drivers across all 7 districts. This year, LPVEC has continued to advertise, including places such as Mass Hire, the Unemployment Board, AAA, the Corvette and Car Clubs, temp agencies, and has reached out to senior centers, STIC, HCC, and is currently in talks with the Hampden County Sheriff's Department for substitute drivers. They have held hiring events, and the most recent hiring event within the last couple of weeks was in Wilbraham on Boston Road. Soon, they will also be reaching out to UPS and FedEx, and you will be receiving a mailer. LPVEC spent $10,000 to send a mailer in English and in Spanish to all residents in the member districts and the greater Springfield area, which I believe will be 36,000 people. There are 2 drivers right now allotted to do routes in Hampden and Wilbraham after they complete their training and get certification. It has been asked if the bus driver contract is on par or good enough to get drivers. I can't speak about specifics because we are currently in negotiations, but the answer is yes, it is a highly competitive package. This is what the $130,000 budget increase is for, the one that I was the lone district to vote no on. So my point is the things that are said in the meeting and that get put in the paper, when I go to work with other member districts that have the same issues that we do, and the majority of the meetings have been taken up by just our problems as if the other districts do not have problems, makes it difficult for us to work together. When there has been solutions, like changing to 3-tier school district, we rejected it. When we want to give a competitive package, that is what the $130,000 was for. We want a competitive package, but we don't want to pay for it. The other member districts have issues that we do too, but they are, it is more difficult for me to work together as a group. So much so that at the last meeting, they wanted to know what they could do to kick us out of busing. So my point is, I was not at the meeting. I did not like that you discussed the subcommittee that I was on. I do not do that to you with your subcommittees. You're making it difficult for me to do my job. The next meeting is going to be on November 20th. According to my notes, the LPVEC corporation representative will also be invited to that meeting, and my notes say that Mike is actually the representative of that corp. And I checked the meeting notes and watched the video, and Mike is actually the representative for it.
Congratulations.
You volunteered.
I also
You
would
said,
like,
I'll do it.
I also would like to give you guys the mailer that everybody will be getting in the mail as well. So unless you would like to apply to drive a bus or answer the phones, or you have recruited somebody, please talk to me first and I will answer your questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Lisa?
Are you finished?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do you have questions? Oh, sorry.
Can you let me know, when and where exactly is this meeting, so I can make sure I'm there?
I know you want to
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, you don't know? Okay.
What?
We'll get that information.
What would you like to know?
The meeting that I need to make sure I go to?
It's at Brush Hill and I'll let you know.
Okay, thank you. It's on the 20th, you said?
Yes.
It's an evening thing?
Yes. It's my favorite meeting of the year. We get to hear from all of the different career tech programs.
Oh, you have the dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool. Okay. I'm very happy I'm not.
Lisa, just a quick question. So I work with a lot of drivers, and some of them also do school busing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, oh, have you ever tried Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative? And they were like, they had no idea about it, and they are bus drivers now. And then I was like, okay, so there's a phone number there. I said, I gave them the phone number, have them call. And from what he had said to me was, I make $32 an hour. What do they pay? And for some reason, I got an advertisement on social media or something came up about this. And I read through the whole thing, and that's where I got the phone number from. But it didn't have like how much like they get paid. Is that?
We're in negotiations right now.
Okay, can I ask how much were they paid under the present negotiations? Do you know that?
Gosh, I think it was maybe I don't know, off the top of my head.
Okay. John, do you know, or Aaron?
But again, I don't really want to talk about it right now because we're at like near the end of.
No, I was saying under the previous contract, where did it stand? If you're telling me our previous contract was 35, then I have good news for some of my drivers that maybe are doing.
Listen, most of the people that end up being bus drivers, it's because of word of mouth.
Right, 100%.
And people want to drive in a 3-tier and 4-tier school district because they get paid more money. And a lot of drivers want to drive in the town that they live in. So it's what are we doing to make it enticing for them? And it's more than just how much they get paid hourly. If they're
benefits. Right.
Just so I understand this, they get paid more in the 3 or 4 tier system?
Yes, because they drive more hours.
Because you're driving more hours, okay.
And I'm trying to remember, we had a, excuse me?
I did have something that I'm not sure, so I don't want to shock. So I did find out that, remember how we've always been told that we have to schedule everybody to be on the bus?
Every seat, every child has a seat.
Yes,
Okay.
I found out that, there's some other districts that have the same thing. But they are allowed to do, I don't know if they do they weekly ask residents, but they are allowed to ask families, is your child riding the bus or not riding the bus? And they are allowed, for families that say they are not riding the bus, allowed to take them off of the route, as long as if they want to be back on the route, we put them back on immediately. So, yes.
There should only be one other district that is in the same boat we're at, because it's part of our reimbursement. So it's, because we're a regional district, we are under, and so that's, I don't know, so if it's, say, a West Springfield who's saying that.
It's not, and
Is
it
it
was from the
still-
liaison from the governor.
Okay, but it's interesting. I'd be interested to hear how.
So I don't know if that,
sure
I'm
LTTech
telling
would
you
be
that so that you
interested
can
to
talk to Alvin about it, because it was said that there's districts that, as long as the family, if they say to the district, we need to be back on the bus, they're put back on the bus.
Who's
And-
responsible for making those calls every week to, or do you just call in weekly and say?
I don't know, that's why I'm saying if John wanted to ask
It's worth
Alvin to
considering.
see what it was, I don't know if it's like, I don't know, some kind of, I don't know if it's a form that goes out weekly, or I don't know. And I asked, would that make it easy? If, I said, would it make the bus routes easier? Like, you're changing it every, like, it's possible that I could change it every week. I don't know if that sounds like it would be helpful or not. So, I don't know. So I'm sorry for springing that on you right
No,
now.
I'll ask him to put it on our next agenda of superintendent's meetings.
I apologize for that.
No, it's
Okay.
fair on knowing that's a possibility.
It just like popped in my brain again. It was something that Alvin and I were discussing as other like solutions.
And just a quick one, Lisa, we respect you in the job that you're doing. You are standing up against the tide. I believe these comments came from the superintendent's update on transportation.
Yes, but then I felt it went off of what he was presenting and went into my subcommittee, and then things were discussed that I've already said in my subcommittee updates. So I figured I would present everything all together.
No, I'm glad you did. It's a nice presentation. Thank you.
What is the difference on the tier?
Oh,
It's
that's
the
what I was
start, it's
gonna
the
ask.
start times of schools.
Yes.
So I teach in Agawam, so our schools start at 4 different times. It's a 4-tier school, a school district. So, yeah.
I believe when we discussed the 3-tier busing situation, the reason that we couldn't do it is because it would have taken renegotiation with wasn't it with the union?
I think it
we
was
would
because
change the start
residents
times?
said they didn't want it to change and we didn't change it.
There's mostly feedback from families. And part of that has to do
But now
with,
they
say,
also
2
don't
years
want the
every
busing
2
to be fixed.
Right.
So my point is,
But it's because the,
you have to pick one.
switching up
Right.
years in preschool.
Who are we talking?
You're pointing out quite clearly that we have the opportunity to fix the busing problem very quickly by going to a 3-tier system.
Correct.
And that was the conversation we had last year.
Which, I do remember that conversation, and I
So-
remember there were some public comments, right, that were against the change.
We're talking 3-tier means you have 3 different
Start times at
So
different schools.
Elementary.
Middle school, high school.
This is something that will be a future agenda item.
I-
The tier busing, just again, to, put the information back out there, so we can have a conversation about it, but also so people understand the impact of moving towards a 3-tier system. By people, I mean the communities.
I think that's a great idea, Michelle, given how much we're struggling with the busing and the costs and everything, I think it is worthwhile to bring up for discussion again. and on the agenda and let people come to, maybe some people will now feel more strongly that they're struggling with the unreliable busing, and maybe they don't feel as strongly against the three-tier system.
But I think it was also like, when things start after school, that would be affected, and there's a whole, it's one of these things where you pull one string and it affects so many other things, so this was a
The
really.
school's doing 3 and 4
Yeah.
tiers, right, and the kids. I'm
I
sure the
mean,
kids
I
have
work in a
after-school
district, we have 4
activities, right?
elementary schools, 3 start at the same time and 1 doesn't, and we're doing fine,
Okay.
you know? So, it's, do you want to have, if we were 3-tier, we wouldn't have a bus driver shortage right now.
And
Other-
you run a late
so-
bus for the middle school and high school, like you do?
I don't know, I'm not at the upper schools, but I'm just saying, it was an option. All of the options that we have, we've said no to. So our only option that I feel that I can be able to do is recruit people. Because everything that's been put forward to fix the solution has not gone through.
Anything else for Lisa?
So, we're gonna put this information out.
Well, it's going to be a future agenda item, and I think we'll have a conversation, and I think that is going to,
Listen, if the flyer goes out to the 36,000 people, and who knows what will happen, but
Maybe we need bus drivers. But-
I highly doubt it.
did you mean the three-tier, Tim, did you mean the three-tier system? Is that what you mean, that?
And if I remember, our discussion over the 3-tier system before was in relation to budget crisis.
Yes.
Purely cost cutting.
Well, if you make it that a tier, we're cutting down the buses we're paying for too.
It
So,
certainly does save money and cut costs, although we get reimbursed, not what we're supposed to, but some amount of that. But the bus crisis and not having enough drivers, it's a difference, it's a worse situation even.
I think it ties into a number of issues that we're dealing with, transportation, budget, so I think that, again, I think we'll table this conversation, and we'll move this to an agenda item and allot the necessary amount of time for the conversation, and we'll have more detailed information from John. Okay, so moving on, we
Thank
will,
you.
negotiation subcommittee, we have a meeting, November 14th. At 4 o'clock in the district office, nobody is invited. But just so you know, and we'll move on to the policy subcommittee.
We have not met.
Okay, perfect, okay.
And we'll have something to work on.
I have policies ready, I've just been holding it off because I was working on the party application. So
Yeah.
I think we can probably meet sometime in November.
Okay.
All right, consent agenda.
Before we go on the consent agenda,
Sure.
can I just, it's really important that when we have meetings sent out, that the district sends out invitations, because sometimes there's changes and stuff, especially now where there's a lot of things up in the air, and I know I rely very heavily on being sent an invitation, and especially when there's a change. So I know it's a lot to juggle and stuff like that. I want to say thank you for the great work that you're doing, all of you. But just to emphasize how important it is that we all get the updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
It
Okay.
was put in our calendar,
No,
email was
I'm
sent.
talking about something else.
Consent agenda.
Make a motion to accept the consent agenda?
Second.
Any questions or concerns? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Is anyone opposed? Okay, so we are moving on to future agenda items. So we have the 2 items that are there. The tiered bus system will be another item that would be added. Our next meeting is Thursday, November 21st, at 6:30 in the IRC, because the first meeting of the month, which would be November 7th, I believe, we have members that are at MASC conference, so, and the superintendent as well. Yes.
It's okay, I can hold on.
Oh, you can add items.
I don't know, there's an announcement
Yes.
I wish to make, but we could make it after adjournment.
Okay.
I just wanted to, I did want to put special education on future items, but I think that was addressed today, so thank you, Josh. So I think that's good. And I was also gonna have busing put on, but I like that we now have that. Thank you, Lisa and Michelle. Thank you.
Oh, can I ask my representatives for the planning board, is part of what you guys are working on, is there gonna be any talk about a mechanism for making the middle school, a regional middle school, and what those models look like? Like, the things that I'm worried about, and maybe you guys have it already figured out, is like, does it continue to be owned by Wilbraham? Do we need to take it over as we do Minichog High School, and it needs to be owned by the district? You know, is Hamden open to any form of negotiation where they would start to share the capital expenses?
These are all, yes.
Yes, you guys are all working on
We've
it.
got
Okay.
you covered.
Yeah.
Okay, and we'll be reporting back on the next meeting. You're also welcome to attend the meetings if you want to. You won't be able to because of a quorum, we won't be able to, you know, add anything, but you can certainly come and listen. And we're also on Zoom. But anyway, we will report out on that. But anything, if you have any questions for the planning committee, feel free to send it along and we will make sure that we address it.
Oh, wait, one quick thing.
yes.
Can we keep the MIAA situation
Sure.
As a repeating agenda item so that we can keep on addressing that and keep on top of that?
Absolutely.
Thank
Okay.
you.
May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we'll do roll call. Cheryl? Tim?
Yes.
Sean?
Aye.
Lisa?
Yes?
Mike?
Yep.
Myself? Aye. We are adjourned 8:13. Thank you.
And my announcement is that this is Aaron's last meeting with us.
Oh.
And so we have some cake to share.
Cake.